I just want to do a brief video on a question that was asked the other day, which was less of a technical one, but still equally as important, really. It was after a session of driving where we have the debrief, and I was asking generally how my pupil felt about how things were going, and he gave me an answer, and then said, but it does get easier though, doesn't it, Tom? It does get easier, and yeah, generally speaking, yeah, it's fair enough to say it is, but it's not something that you can just assume. This is where your attitude to learning comes in, because if you're just thinking to yourself that, oh well, surely if I just do 10 hours of driving, then I must be getting sorted out, then it doesn't necessarily follow, because what we're after achieving with this is building on positive outcomes, really. So you want to achieve a certain thing and then build on that, and then build on that and build on that, and that's how you get improvement and constant improvement on your ability. And you can't really shortcut that. It doesn't matter what sort of if you're doing an intensive course or any other sort of course, you cannot shortcut that process. Well, you can, some people do, and this is really what I mean about the attitudes to learning, because some people's motivation to learning is for learning how to drive is different from others. I mean, I've seen a whole kind of range of this, from people saying to me, well, really, my mum just wants me to learn to drive. I don't really want to, but my mum wants me to, because she doesn't want to be my personal taxi anymore. Or someone might say, well, Tom, I don't really want to be here. I'd like to learn in my own car. I don't really want to be learning how to drive in your car. Or you get these kind of issues where I've heard somebody say, well, actually, I'm quite happy being driven around by whoever it might be, friends or family. I'm quite happy with that, and I don't really want to learn to drive. And so this is motivational factors, which is going to sort of affect what your attitude is to learning to drive. But generally speaking, let's look at this in general terms. What we're after achieving is doing things well, actually really doing things well. You do something well, not fast necessarily, not quick, that's not what it's all about, but you do it thoroughly, and you do it well, good quality, and then you move on and you build on that. And that's the way that improvement is made. For instance, giving a real example, if you found yourself early on not having complete clutch control, you never do properly master that, then it doesn't magically go away with passing of time. It needs sorting, and sometimes, isn't it sad to see this with people on test, where there might be an incline, maybe red traffic lights, good example, an incline going onto some red traffic lights, and the lights go red, and they haven't got that proper clutch control, and there's some rolling back, and it's horrible to see. It's not good at all, and that's all because, and there they are on test, and that's right at the end of the course. So that's just an example where there has been a breakdown, really, in the actual learning process, and it's not nobody's particular fault as such. I'm not necessarily putting blame here, but it just does give an indication that the actual way that things were measured, the progress was being measured, was not as tight as it could have been, and that's a big deal, isn't it, if you end up failing your test for something like that. And the way that I do that is via the driver's pack with the progress recording sheet, and it's not just a case of putting numbers in there and generally covering the syllabus. It's a case of doing them all well. It really is. If there's a little chink in the syllabus there, a test can easily expose that, and that could very easily end up in a test fail. But even getting beyond thinking about the test, because you might pass the test in itself is not difficult to pass. But what about after that, when you're driving around and that little chink gets exposed in another way, and that can result in, well, I don't know, but if you have an accident, that's not good, is it? It's really, really not good. And so this is why I'm sort of talking about attitudes to learning to drive. This is quite a big deal, really. And if you're sort of looking around you, and if you're basing your own personal assessment of your ability on what you see around you, then that's not necessarily a great way of doing it. I don't know how many full license holders out there, would pass the driving test, these days. And so if you're looking around you and you're seeing dropped signals and God, who knows what things we see when we're driving around, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm clearly better than that, so I must be able to pass the test. That doesn't follow, because the way to check whether what your ability is with your driving instructor, after every session, properly assessing what's been achieved. You need to achieve something well and then move on. Achieve that well and then move on. And that's how we build blocks. That's how it's done. You can't just short circuit that process. It really is. You may think you can, but you can't. It needs to be, things need to be done well, and then built on to make a steady improvement.